The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para-X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
All these voices. All these voices. All these things you can't explain. All these painful memories. They keep haunting you and daunting me. It's just a ghost of you and me. It's just a smoking gasoline. It's just a ghost of you and me. Of you and me.
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Staring into the Abyss. I am your host, horror author James Hershey Jr. And with me as always, my co-host, old boy James Ash. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, brother. How's everybody doing tonight?
Tonight's going to be an interesting show because tonight we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of exorcisms. Everybody's seen them on TV. Everybody's seen The Exorcist. Everybody's seen all these horror movies. I mean, they made a ton of them, of different exorcism kind of movies. And we've all seen them. We've all seen the head spinning around, the pea soup vomit going across the room. We've seen all that stuff. And I've said it before on this show that real exorcisms are nothing like that. And tonight I want to kind of get into part of this process that's never talked about by pretty much anybody. And not only do I want to get into it, I'm going to explain the theory behind it. I'm going to kind of run through the process. I'm going to teach you how to do it at home. It's going to be a very interesting and fun show. So with exorcisms, what most people think is that a priest goes in and he does the exorcism and then he leaves, and that's it. It's over. Easy. That's not the way it works at all. Now, I've said before on the show that sometimes it takes dozens, sometimes hundreds of exorcisms before you finally get rid of something. And there's a lot of factors that go into that, and I'm going to get into that tonight with you and explain why the demons can come back, what allows them to come back, and all of the things that you have to do to finally get rid of it for good, or at least so it doesn't come right back, because it can still come back later if they open up doorways again. So in the maintenance phase of every exorcism, you have a lot of stuff you have to go through, and the process that I'm going to describe tonight you have to do usually dozens and dozens of times for different individual things. So let's start at the very beginning. I think that'll be the easiest way to do it. Somebody calls or they email or they get in contact with us and they let us know they got a problem. Something's attacking them, something's hurting them, something's destroying their life. Step one is the interview. So what we do is we go and we meet them. I usually like to meet them away from their home. I try to do it like in a park or down at the river, someplace that's beautiful, someplace that has like a nice natural setting to where they can feel comfortable and be at ease, but also someplace that's away from their home. To me, that's very important because a lot of times some of the things you're dealing with are centered at the home. So we don't want any kind of influence from that on them when we're talking to them. We want them away from that. So I try to pick a park or, down by the river or, like I said, someplace beautiful like that where they can feel peaceful and at ease. So then we kind of just go through an interview process where we talk to them, we find out what's going on, we have them explain it in their own words, what's happening to them. We ask them questions about what they've told us. And then we have some questions that we ask that are pretty standard, like, have you try to communicate with these things? Do you use like Ouija boards? Have you been to see psychics? All these different things that we'll ask to kind of let us know whether they're opening doorways or not, and if they are opening doorways, what kind of doorways they're opening. So once that entire interview process is over, if we think that there is legitimately something going on, then we will schedule an investigation. Now, on a case where we're pretty sure that what is happening is either demonic or, at the very least, a malevolent spirit that is trying to hurt them, sometimes we'll run through some prayers and blessings at that first interview to try to see what happens. And that is for their own benefit, right? To try to make it a little bit better for them. But also, there's a very important reason that I do that. Because if it is something demonic and I cast it, they're going to have a couple days, 2 or 3 days of peace before that thing comes back. And that might be confusing to some of you. You might think, well, wait a minute, if you've cast the demon away, why does it come right back in 3 days? Well, that's what I'm going to get into tonight, the reasoning behind why it comes back and what you have to do to finally get rid of it. But that's later on. I'll get to it. But the important part of doing that is if I do the prayers and I cast the demon out, and they have 2 or 3 days of peace, and then they get back in contact with me and say it's back after a couple days, then I know that I'm looking at a potentially legitimate case. Okay? If I go through that and they contact me that night when I get home and they say it's back and all that, then usually that means that they just want attention, that it's not a legitimate demonic case. Now, it doesn't mean there's nothing going on with them, because it could still be a malevolent spirit or something that's acting up at the house. That's what the investigation is for. So the next step in the process is we will go and we will do an investigation to determine exactly what we're dealing with. That involves different pieces of equipment like a phasma box or a spirit box. It involves EVP sessions. It involves all the things that paranormal teams utilize in order to communicate with spirits. Through that process, we try to determine what we are dealing with. After the investigation, if we feel that, one, it is something that is actually happening, that it can't be explained by any rational means, and two, that we feel that it is something that is a demonic attachment or impression, then we will move into the next phase, which is the exorcism phase. Now, we're not doing the exorcism yet, but that's just a phase that we're entering into. Now, before you do the exorcism, what I like to do is try to close as many of those doorways as possible. And this is what I call the maintenance phase of the exorcism, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to go in and you're going to run through a process of emotional and spiritual healing with the people. And I will explain the theory behind that first, and then I will kind of run through the process and teach you how to do this so that you can do it by yourself and you can close these doorways in your own life so that you can deal with your own issues. So the theory behind this is, it's all based on trauma in your soul, okay? So what happens is something traumatic happens to you in your life, whether it is the death of somebody you love or some tragedy that happens, you were molested or somebody beat the crap out of you, whatever. It's just some kind of bad trauma that has left a scar on you, okay? Not a physical scar, but an emotional and a spiritual scar. So what happens is that trauma latches on to your soul. And your soul is an amazing thing, because what your soul will actually do is sever that piece of the soul that the trauma has attached to. And the reason it does that is so that you don't have to live that trauma constantly. So if let's say something happened to you traumatic that made you very, very fearful. So by your soul severing and walling off that section and isolating that emotion of fear to that section of soul, you don't walk around for the rest of your life scared out of your mind constantly. You're only scared when you think about that incident. So that's what your soul does. So you have a negative emotion that attaches to that trauma, that is attached to that section of your soul that is now severed and walled off. Now, demonic entities will come and attach to that section of your soul, and they will feed off of that negative emotion, whether it's fear or depression or jealousy or whatever that negative emotion is. They will feed off of that. It will give them energy. And they will use that as a springboard to attack you and to attack your life. They have the justification to do that because of your sin. We're all sinners. So because we sin, they are allowed to attack us. And they use that negative emotion in order to feed off that energy to make those attacks and those changes in your life. So they will attack your finances, they'll attack your health, they'll attack your relationships, they'll attack your mind, they'll make you depressed, they'll make you angry, they'll do all kinds of horrible things. So in the process of the emotional and spiritual healing, what you're doing is you are bringing that person back to that time. Okay, you are taking that severed piece of soul that has the trauma and the negative emotion attached to it. You're bringing it to the forefront, and you're actually putting that person mentally back in that trauma. They're going to remember it. They're going to live it. They're going to be there again. And once they're in that process, you're going to talk to them and you're going to ask them what negative emotion they're feeling. And they're going to tell you whatever that is. And then you deal with that. And you're going to do this for every single trauma that they've experienced, every single negative emotion. And each trauma could have one or it could have a dozen negative emotions attached to it. And you're going to run through a process each time. It takes forever. It's a simple process, but it is an important process. So I'm going to kind of run you through that right now. Okay, so what I want you to do, if you're listening at home, please don't do this if you're listening in your car. I mean, if you're listening in the car right now, pull over before you do this. Don't do this while you're driving. But if you're sitting here listening at home, what I want you to do is I want you to think of a trauma in your life, something that really bothers you. Okay? It could be a big thing, it could be a little thing. It's just something that affects you greatly in a negative way. Some trauma that you've been through. I want you to kind of think about that and come up with one in your head. And while you're doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask God to bring His presence into this moment with us. Okay, I want Him to let you feel that He's there. Now, you'll feel this in several different ways, and it's different for everybody. Some people will get a tingly feeling in their hands or their feet or in their body. Some people will get like butterflies in their stomach to where they almost feel nauseous a little bit, and they just kind of get a little giddy and excited. Some people will break down and cry like babies. You know, that's happened to me before, where God has put His presence there, and I have felt it so strongly that I've begun to weep uncontrollably. So I just want God to kind of let us feel His presence, that He's there with us. Okay, now at this point, you should have your trauma picked out in your head. So what I want you to do, I want you to think about that moment, that trauma. And I want you to kind of put yourself back in that place. I want you to smell the smells. I want you to hear the sounds. I want you to feel that moment in time. Okay, now that you're there, I want you to out loud say, what emotion are you feeling right now? Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it depression? Is it jealousy? Is it rage? What feeling do you have at this moment in that trauma? Okay, now that you've identified that emotion, now we're going to pray. What I want you to do is I want you to ask Jesus to take that emotion from you. So if let's say it's fear, you're going to say, Jesus, I want you to take this fear from me. I hand it over to you. Okay, so now that you've given that fear to Christ, you're going to ask Christ to heal that portion of your soul. And now that he's taken that negative emotion, you're going to ask him to replace that negative emotion with a positive emotion. Something like joy or hope or love. Then you're going to say, thank you for taking that emotion from me. Thank you for healing my soul. Take a deep breath and relax. Now, while you're relaxing, I'm going to say this. Any demons or negative entities that are attached to that trauma and that section of your soul are cast out. Now I want you to repeat that. I want you to say, I cast out any demons or any negative or malevolent entities that are attached to that trauma in my soul. In the holy name of Jesus, you are banished. You are cast out. Okay, now I want you to remember that trauma again. I want you to slowly put yourself back there again. I want you to remember the smells, the tastes, the sounds. Now what are you feeling in that moment? Because the initial emotion that you had should be gone. If it was fear, you shouldn't feel fear anymore because you've given that emotion away to Jesus. That's gone now. So what are you feeling now in that moment? If you have another negative emotion that has come up in that moment, then you're going to repeat that exact process we just did. Let's say now you feel depression. So you're going to ask Jesus to take that feeling of depression from you. You're going to thank him for taking it. You're going to ask him to heal your soul and replace that negative emotion with a positive emotion, like hope, love, etc. And then you're going to cast out the demons that are attached to that negative emotion, that are attached to that section of your soul. You're going to banish them from your life in the name of Jesus. And then you're going to take a break again. Now, if when you went back through that trauma, if you did not have a negative emotion, because whatever the initial emotion was that you felt, you hand it off to God, and now there is no negative emotion, then you're done with that trauma. You can put that one away. If you still had a negative emotion, then you repeat that process. So then once you're done, you take a break, you kind of gather yourself, and then you go back to that trauma again. You put yourself back in that position, you remember the smells, you remember the taste, the sights, everything, and then you let me know what you feel again. And you keep repeating that process over and over and over again until there are no more negative emotions attached to that trauma. That is the process of emotional and spiritual healing. That is what we have to do for every single case of demonic attachment or oppression. That's the process. Now, I try to do that before we actually go through with any kind of exorcism. Because the reasoning behind that is, let's say that you skip that entire step. You don't do any of that. And that could be dozens and dozens of meetings to get that done. But let's say you don't do that at all. You just do the investigation. Okay, there's something demonic here, we think. Let's call the exorcist in. So then what happens is the exorcist comes in and he goes through the exorcism and he banishes the demon. But then a couple days later, that demon comes right back. Because there's all these open doorways still. And there's all this stuff that's unresolved that allows him to come back in and to reattach and to do damage. So it's very important before you do the exorcism that you close as many of these doorways as you can. Now, you're probably never going to get them all because a lot of people don't even remember some of their trauma. And another important part of that process is when you're doing this, you need to be praying to God to show those traumas to you. Okay, you want him to help you to remember any of these traumas that demons can attach to that you can't remember off the top of your head. You want his help to help bring that up and to help bring that to the surface so that you can deal with it. So once you've gone through that process and you've gotten every one that you think you can get, all the ones that you can remember at least, then you're going to go through with the exorcism process. You're going to actually bring in the priest. He's going to do the exorcism, and then you wait and you see what happens. For some people, they have weeks, maybe even months of peace. For some people, they have 3 or 4 days and then the thing is back. So then once it comes back, you kind of have to go back through the emotional healing process again and just make sure that there's nothing you missed. Make sure that there's no traumas that haven't been dealt with, no negative emotions that you haven't dealt with. And you also have to do this on an ongoing basis for the rest of your life. You have to kind of do it yourself. You got to check yourself. And whenever you have those negative emotions, whenever you're feeling rage and anger and depression and all these things, you got to go through that process, and you got to hand that negative emotion over to God and have him take it from you so that that doorway can be closed. Because each time you go through that, you're opening doorways. Each time you're having those traumas, doorways are being opened. Okay? And then another thing you have to do if the demon comes back after the exorcism is you have to find out from the client if they've done anything to open doorways. Are they visiting psychics? Are they playing with Ouija boards? Are they messing around with spirit boxes? You know, what are they doing to open doorways again, to let this thing back in? It's a very important part of the process. You got to check that, because some people won't even realize the things that they're doing are bad. You know, and that goes along with the emotional and spiritual healing phase, where you're doing counseling with these people and you're explaining to them the different things that they're doing in their life that are opening doorways to allow these things to end. And they have to change those behaviors. And believe it or not, this is the point where some people just drop right out of the process, and they never do get healing. They never do get the demon away from them because they're not willing to make the changes necessary in order to keep it away. Because these things are very, very powerful. And the other thing I want to say is that it could be way more than one. It doesn't have to be just a demon. I'm saying a demon for the process of this conversation, but it doesn't have to be just one demon. If you think about it, let's say you have a trauma in your life and you have negative emotions attached to that trauma. You might have 5 or 6 different emotions that are attached to that trauma. And each one of those negative emotions could have multiple demons feeding on it. So at the end of the day, for each trauma, you might have 10 or 15 demons that are attached to it. Now, granted, most of them are going to be lesser demons that aren't going to be that hard to deal with. But you could have a hell of a lot when you count up all the traumas that you have in your life. And those things affect you not just mentally. They don't just affect your finances. They make you sick, like physically sick. Like a lot of times when people suffer from things like migraines and stuff like that, it's what we call a spirit of pain, which is a demonic influence that is manifesting in a physical way on their body that's causing physical damage. And another thing that people don't realize is without that step of the emotional and spiritual healing, physical healing isn't possible. Like a lot of times people that do physical healing, they'll go and pray for a physical healing on somebody and it doesn't happen, and they don't understand why they weren't able to heal them. You know, they released the power, they called out for the healing, and it should have happened. It's happened before, but it didn't happen this time. Why? Well, a lot of times the reason is because they haven't gone through the process of the emotional and spiritual healing to close all those doorways and to banish those demons away. So those demons are actually standing in the way of that healing. They are causing the physical malady. And once you get rid of the demons, a lot of times the physical malady will go away. And they'll have physical healing as well as emotional and spiritual healing, which is an amazing thing to see. But you got to do the work. And on an ongoing basis, if you are not constantly doing a self-check on yourself and going through that process and dealing with your negative emotions and dealing with your trauma, you are going to continue to have not only oppression from demonic influence, but you're also going to have physical manifestations. So you're going to have pain, you're going to have sickness, you're going to have issues with your body that are stemming from those negative emotions and stemming from those demonic influences on your soul. In the secular world, they basically just call it stress. You've all heard that stress kills. You know, stress can make you physically sick. Well, the reason stress makes you physically sick is because it is attached to negative emotions. With stress, you have anxiety, you have worry, you have depression, you have fear. All of those emotions are wrapped up in one big ball that we call stress. All of those are food for demons. All of those stem from trauma, which are doorways that allow these things into your life. So if you deal with the trauma and you get rid of the negative emotions and you have that emotional and that spiritual healing, that makes the physical healing possible. But if you don't deal with them, you don't have the physical healing, you never will. So that aspect of it is probably, now see, I don't want to say it's more important than the exorcism itself, because one, that'll anger a bunch of people that do exorcisms, because if they don't do what they do, the demon doesn't leave. But at the same time, when I'm going through that process of working with a client on emotional and spiritual healing, I am casting out demons. I am banishing those demons away from them. So I'm doing the same thing that is done in an exorcism to get rid of the demons. But when the priest comes in, he will kind of wipe them all away. Where I'm only doing it specifically for just the demons that are feeding on that particular emotion that we're dealing with. Does that make sense? An exorcist is like a tsunami. Will come in and just woof, wipe them all out. But the problem is, if you have not done the work to close all those doorways and they still have footholds, they'll come back. And that's why you end up having to do dozens and dozens of exorcisms to finally get rid of something. Is because they still have those handholds, man. They can still grab a hold because there's something there that they can attach to. So you've got to do that maintenance work of getting rid of all of that trauma, getting rid of all those negative emotions, closing all those doorways. And then you have to be super careful not to do things in the future that will open up new doorways, because they will be ready, willing, and able to pop right back into you and hurt you again if they can. So you got to be so careful. So that's the process. You can do that on your own. You don't need me to do that. Work that process that I described of the emotional and spiritual healing. Identify the trauma, put yourself into it, identify the negative emotion, hand that emotion over to God, ask Him to take it from you, ask Him to heal that portion of your soul, ask Him to replace the negative emotion that was there that He took with a positive emotion, and thank Him. And then cast out any demons in the name of Jesus Christ that are attached to that negative emotion. And then repeat the process. Keep repeating it over and over and over again until there are no more negative emotions that you're feeling with that trauma. Once you've reached that point, you are done with that trauma for now. Now I say for now because in a couple days, you might have a negative emotion back on that trauma again. And that's because we kind of create it ourselves sometimes. We'll think about it and we'll kind of worry about it, and we'll kind of, it's like, have you ever had a bad tooth and it hurts like hell? And it hurts like hell for a long time. And you finally get it pulled out. So now all you have is a hole. The sickness is gone. That bad tooth is gone. It doesn't hurt anymore. But you're so used to it hurting, you start plugging away at the hole with your tongue, just trying to get it to hurt a little bit again because you're so used to it. And that's kind of the same thing that you're doing with your soul. You're so used to that trauma, you're so used to that negative emotion that's attached to that trauma, that you're probing it a little bit, and you're trying to see if you feel it anymore, and you end up making yourself feel it, if that makes sense. And that's okay. If that happens, it happens sometimes. Just go back through the process. Hand that new negative emotion over to Jesus. Go through the exact same process we already did. Get rid of it and move on. And just keep working on that. Go through every trauma that you can remember in your life and get rid of every negative emotion. Now, what you'll find when you do that is, one, you will feel so much better. You'll feel lighter, you'll feel happier, you'll feel almost like a house that was stuffy for a long time and you've opened up the windows and now there's a breeze blowing through. You'll feel fresh. And you'll also find that a lot of your physical maladies will start to go away. You know, you won't get headaches as much. You won't be in as much pain. You won't hurt as much. You won't be as sick. As you start to heal these traumas and get rid of these demons, you will feel better as time goes on. It's something you can do all by yourself. You don't need me to do it. You needed me to guide you through it. Now that you understand the process, you can do it on your own. And the reason for that is, it's not me that's doing the healing. It's not me that's casting the demons out. Yes, I'm saying the words, but it's the power of God that does it. It's Jesus that is healing you, not me. So you can call upon that as a believer. You can call upon the power of God yourself, and you can have healing. You can have your soul restored. You can cast out demons in Jesus' name. The Bible tells us that we have that authority. You just have to have the faith to do it. So I would say, even if you don't feel like you're possessed, or even if you don't feel like you have an attachment or an oppression, if you have trauma and you have negative emotions, I would still run through the process. And I would still clean those up, because you're going to feel so much better. You're not going to be as sick. You're going to be healthier. You're going to be happier. You'll notice that your finances will improve. Everything in your life will improve if you don't have those negative emotions that are attached to that trauma. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw over to Old Boy and get his opinion on everything and anything that he wants to talk about. So Old Boy, go ahead, brother.
I haven't had to do an exorcism, guys, so we don't actually have to see. There's different rules in different places. In California, you don't have to ask certain people to do things. There's rules in the other states, like in Virginia. So I haven't seen one done. I've seen them on TV, and I've seen them. I know people have done them because James and they have done it, but I haven't had to do them yet. I've done some stuff to get stuff out, sage houses, and did some prayers and stuff like that, but I haven't had anything sticking on somebody yet. I've had somebody something following somebody, and we've got them out other ways, but I've never had to see that. I have my opinions on that anyway. Again, it does work to a point, but you have somebody who continuously doesn't want it to go away. It won't matter how much you can do and bring who you can bring in. It's still going to be there if the person wants it there. A lot of people got to realize that too. There's people who actually want these entities with them. And then once that happens, it doesn't matter what you do. They'll just keep coming back and they'll get stronger. So if you really want them out, then you want them out. There's some people who say that, and when they get rid of it, then they'll be, oh, I miss it. And then, or they're just some people who just don't care and they're cool about what they're going through in life. So do get that. Don't get obstacles. You got to remember when you're doing this stuff, guys, just remember to bless yourself, sage yourself too when you're doing any of this stuff, because it can attach to you and follow you home, or it can make something else get you. Do remember, you could be a Christian, but it can make somebody who's not come after you for no reason. They could just think that you did something or caused something. It can make them just mad at you. Remember, there's always a loophole to everything. They can come after your family who don't, if you believe that, it can. I've seen it happen. I've seen a lot of crazy things, especially with spirits. I've never been attacked. I've had teammates attacked. I've had people stand there talking to me and they get scratched. I've had people get ill. I've had weird feelings of people watching me. I've never been attacked. I'm pretty I'm not no expert. I hate when people say that. I'm experienced, but I'm not an expert. Expert, there's no, I that irritates me. I'm experienced. The problem is I've seen and things happen to people who think they're experienced or they're some expert, and they get people attacked or something happens to them, and they keep having all kinds of bad things happening to them, but then they don't realize it's them and what they're doing, and they're dangerous, or they're unqualified doing what they did because they saw ghost hunters and read a couple magazines, or they're in groups so they think they know everything. And we've seen it in California, Virginia, Pennsylvania, because they go Virginia, Pennsylvania, West Virginia. They're in Maryland. They're in 3 or 4 states. They're all close to each other. Like here, California, and maybe Vegas. That's it. And because everything's so far away. It may be Arizona, but I haven't gone that far yet. It's a little different world. They can go. They have all these places they can go, and it's very open. A lot of other places there. Here, the problem is I deal with a lot of people who either are lying about what's going on, or they want it to continuously stay. And that's a very bad problem. And you're never going to get rid of it because the people are just, it's pointless. They're just going to continuously keep it there. So, or I'll go, like, I've gone to graveyards and had stuff. I haven't had anything follow me except one time. And it tried to get me, but something else canceled it out and it never showed up again. It was when I first started doing ghost investigations with Tells the Abyss. And I had something follow me, and I had a dream. And I sometimes I'll have dreams where something holds me down and it goes away. I know how to fight it off. I've had these for years since I was a kid. I used to be able to see stuff and when I sleep. And my wife, one time I'm going to have my wife come on here, guys, and she could tell you what happens here all the time. It'd be a very interesting show. That's all I could say. Just bless yourself a lot. Like tomorrow, we're going over to our friends who went to the Baggins Museum, and she might have brought something back with her. She didn't sage herself or cleanse herself or do any kind of cleansing, and stuff has been happening now since she's been back. So we're gonna go ahead and cleanse her. Zach Baggins' museum in Vegas. She went to it, and like I said, we only live about an hour and I wouldn't say an hour and a half. It's from State Line to here. I can get there about an hour and 45 minutes, no traffic. From Vegas is about 2 hours and 30 minutes, 2 hours 25 minutes. I drive fast. It's about 170 miles, 168, somewhere around there, all the way from my house to Vegas. So I haven't gone yet. Now he's raised the price to like insanely. I think it's 80 something a ticket. I'm not going. It's too expensive in my opinion, and I would love to go just to check it out, but man, I'm not going to pay almost $100 to go. It just, I have my opinions, and there's a lot of cool things there, but I'm just not going to pay almost $100 to go to something unless he lets me do stuff. And they don't let you do any videos, they don't let you do any camera work, they don't let you do anything that would, it's cool to see, but yeah, I have my opinions on it. So I would love to go and explore and actually stay the night there, and if he let me do it, but I know he's not going to. See, you guys got to realize we're extreme. I'll do the extreme stuff. It doesn't scare me. We're already talking to people, and there's some big names that's talking to us. We're just not allowed to say it. We have pitched him a couple things, and one of them was the most extreme places ever, anywhere. And most people won't do it. And we're willing to try it. And I can't wait if we get it. If we get it, we don't. It is what it is. But it's being talked about. And other things are too. But if it happens, I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm excited, but I know there's danger in this. There's dangers when you do exorcism too, guys. Like, if you guys do these and you know somebody who actually qualified to do them, not somebody who watched The Exorcist and or thinks they're a preacher or something because they read the Bible a couple times, and I'm not saying that in a bad way to anybody's religion, that you're going to have problems. And I've seen it already. And people who think they know everything end up getting hurt, or people hurt. and it doesn't work for them like they think. So be very careful. We try to warn you guys about doing some of this stuff because I know it's exciting. You see stuff on TV, but do remember they've edited all this stuff. They've done the parts they want you to see. It is TV. Remember that. You're not seeing 100% fact. There is stuff, but they make it look 20 times better on TV. And that's not saying anybody's faking anything. That's just how it goes. You're making TV. You want people to watch something. If you guys ever gone to an investigation, they're boring. Yeah, I mean, there's cool stuff that happens, but for hours on end, there might be nothing. And it's a lot of walking and looking around and stuff. It's like going and hunting something. It takes hours and stuff to get good footage. So just remember that, guys. It's fun. It's cool to do. It's a great hobby, and that's what it's coming into. And it shouldn't be. It should be people who are trying to help people and find out what these things are, or try to help people get them out of their lives, not trying to prove and piss them off. I do, and you know what? There's reasons I do it, and people will say, "Well, that's being a hypocrite." No, it's not. I know where to go and where not to go. I have an opinion. I'm not trying to use them to get money or try to get myself on TV or try to make people, follow the brand. I want people to be interested and like what we're doing and liking the fact we're helping people, and we're trying to just help people all together. We're not trying to just, get money, or I don't charge anybody for anything. I'm sorry if you're charging people to come help you to get somebody out of your house, entity or demon or whatever you want to call it, out of somebody's house. I'm sorry. I have my opinions on that. If that's the way you want to do it, that's your business. But we don't do that. James doesn't do that. So just like with the show, we're not going to ever charge anybody to listen to it. So I would never do that. And just as long as we have say in it, and James has say in it, we'll never charge you to listen. I'm not trying to make money off of people to try to help. I'm trying to help them and maybe help some spirits get back where they need to be, and maybe get rid of whatever is at that house lingering around, because you never know what people do. People do crazy things. Remember that. Power. They have a crazy idea. Some people are just insane. They hate the world. They want to just see it burn, like the Joker. They don't have no reason, but they just want to see the world burn. And that's or they want some kind of power they're going to get off of talking to one of these demons, and that's why they have it in them. Or they want to do it for, they know it's not right. They want to just use it as they can get evidence and they can look cool and people like them. It's not the way to go. Don't be messing with these things just to think it's hot to get them, to prove a point. E2, that's a lot of people. Well, I'll go in there and I'll prove there's nothing in there, and then you'll see something bad happens. Or in some sense, there's places where people go and then something bad happens to them. They die in a car wreck or a car. I mean, it doesn't mean it was that reason. It could be coincidence, because that's not impossible. But it's kind of crazy that you just did a ghost thing, and the next day or two you died in some weird car crash, or you got shot somewhere, or something just killed you and you woke up dead because it blew up your heart or attacked you. It's kind of obvious what happened. I know some people are going to say, "Oh, there's no such thing as demons or ghosts. It's just fake." You know what? Instead of saying that, why don't you go out and look for yourself? Instead of sitting on your couch or whatever you sit on, your TV and behind your computer, if you don't believe it, then like I said, I have no problem taking any non-believer out to see if I can prove them wrong. Because I think some people just don't want to believe in it because they're scared of it. And they don't want to know the truth. They don't want to know that there's something there and they can't explain it. And I think that's with a lot of people. Like I said, it's the whole tap dancing on your house. Alien could, and you still would try to say it's not real, because I think people live in denial. I said it earlier on my TikTok. People love a beautiful lie because they don't want to know an ugly truth. And if you think about it, people in general, we all try to hide from the ugly truth. We love seeing a beautiful lie. it doesn't matter if it's true or not. We'd rather believe the lie than the truth, because the truth is too much to bear. So that being said, I'm going to throw it over to James.
I'll give you a kind of interesting example. We all know what a swimming pool is. So imagine that you're at the deep end of the swimming pool. You climb up onto the diving board and you jump in. Now, if you do nothing, or if you do not have the knowledge to know how to swim, you're going to drown. Unless somebody jumps in and saves your ass, you're going to drown. This is no different. When you have people that don't have the knowledge to know how to swim, that are jumping into the deep end of the paranormal world, they're going to drown. It's not a matter of if you're going to get an attachment. It's a matter of when you're going to get an attachment. Because even people that have the knowledge and know what we're doing and we know how to protect ourselves, these things still try to hurt us all the time. When we did that event at St. Albans, a couple months before that, we had been at St. Albans and did an investigation there. And when we were down in the alcohol ward, there was a demon down there who flat out admitted that it wanted to hurt us and kill us. But it couldn't. And it was very, very angry. Because it wanted us, but it couldn't have us. Because we didn't give it permission. We knew what we were doing. And that damn thing was furious. And just chomping at the bit, trying to get a hold of us. And it couldn't. So there are things, I've said it a million times, there are things that go bump in the night. That is 100% true. There are things out there that want to hurt you. And if you go mucking around in something that you ain't got no business mucking around in, you're going to get hurt. And worse than you're going to get hurt, you're going to bring that thing home with you, where it can attach to you and attack you. And it can also attach and attack your children, your family, your parents, everybody. So if you don't have the knowledge, don't go messing around with this stuff. Period. It's that easy. Now, if you're interested in the paranormal and you want to go and do these things, then you need to spend the time to study and get with somebody who knows what they're doing and learn. It's no different than the swimming pool I was talking about. You wouldn't go jump off the diving board into the deep end if you didn't know how to swim. You're going to take a few swimming lessons first. At least you're going to know how to tread water and doggy paddle back over to the side before you go jumping into 10 feet of water. Because you know you're going to drown if you don't. Either that or the lifeguard's going to have to dive in and save you. So what happens if you go into a dangerous place where there's a demonic entity and you don't have the knowledge to deal with it? Somebody's going to have to come save you. Just like that lifeguard. And that's what we do. We come in there and we do battle with these things and we get rid of them for you. But it's up to you to not jump back in that damn deep end without knowing how to swim. And unfortunately, a lot of people do that. And that's the sad part of our work. It's great when we're able to go in and work a case and, we're on that thing for months and we're really working hard on it and we finally get deliverance for that person. And the demons are gone, they're happy again, and they're healthy, and they're living their life, and it's beautiful. That's a wonderful thing. But there's also way more cases where it doesn't go that way. Where we go in and we do all the right things, and we work really hard, and we do the exorcism, and we get rid of the demon, and it ends up coming back because they don't stop the behavior that brought it there in the first place. or the people aren't willing to change their life and stop doing the things that are opening the doorways. So once you reach that point, like Old Boy said earlier, if they want it there, there's nothing you can do, and that's the truth. If they're not willing to do what is necessary to keep themselves from being a target, it doesn't matter how many times we come and get rid of it, it's going to keep coming back. And the Bible says when it comes back, it's going to be stronger. It's going to bring 7 of its friends who are even bigger and badder than it is. And the state of that person will be worse than before. Some of you don't believe in demons. Some of you don't believe in God. Now, if you don't believe in demons and stuff, it's probably because you never had to deal with any of this stuff. And I say that's great for you, man. I'm happy that you don't have to deal with it. I'm happy that you're not being harmed. But that doesn't make it any less true. Just because you don't believe something doesn't mean it's not true. It could be summer outside. Old Boy lives in a desert. It could be 100 degrees that day. And you could be sitting in your air conditioner where it's 70 degrees. And you could say, you know, I don't believe it's 100 degrees outside because it doesn't feel like 100 in here. I don't see no 100. When I look at my thermostat, it says 70. Well, just because you don't believe it doesn't mean it's not 100 degrees outside. People have this overinflated sense of their opinion mattering more than it should. Your opinion is exactly that, an opinion. I'm not saying that to be mean or cruel to anybody. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying truth is truth. And the funny thing about truth, it doesn't matter what you think about it. It's still the truth. These things exist. And one true statement I can give you about demons is they hate you. And they want to destroy you. Every single one of you. They might BS you. They might pretend to be your friend. They might pretend to be a loved one. They might pretend that they're going to offer you a deal to where you're going to have a better life after you die. That your eternity is going to be awesome. Or that you're going to have power in this life. But remember, they're liars. Bible clearly states that they're liars. And when you die and you're burning in hell, you're going to say, wait a minute, I thought I was going to have a penthouse suite. I thought I was going to be a prince of hell. What happened to that? You got played, man. You were a fool because you listened to a liar. That's what you got to remember, guys. These things are liars. And they absolutely hate you. They hate you because God loves you. God loves you so much that he came here in the form of a man to die for your sin so that you could have everlasting life in heaven. He didn't do that for them. He did that for you. That's why they hate you. And that's why they want to kill you. And that's the bottom line. And I'm telling you the truth like I always do. Now, what you do with that truth, that's up to you. I'm going to love you either way. So with that being said, I'm going to throw it back over to Old Boy to get his final sum up, and we will wrap up.
Thank you, brother. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you take what we talk about in consideration. Just watch out what you're doing, guys. That's all I'm going to say. Stop watching these shows. I mean, it's cool to watch them, but they're not going to help you if you think you're some expert. Trust me. It's starting to really irritate me seeing people go out and think they're some expert because they saw some stuff on TV or they want to make money off of this. It's not supposed to be for that. And if you think that, I'm sorry. And I don't care if you hate me or not. I don't care. I don't care. Trust me, me and James don't care. I hope you guys enjoy us on Parax Radio on Sundays and Tuesday nights on the Best of. Sundays at 9 p.m., 12 a.m. Eastern. And you guys want to check out any of the other shows we do from the old and the past and the paranormal news James does on his YouTube page. Check him out and subscribe. You guys want any merchandise, he'll tell you where to go. Shirts, all kinds of cool stuff. My book's out, guys. You guys can pick it up at Barnes and Noble. I think it's at Apple Books and like 10 other places you can get ebooks. I'm trying to get Amazon, but it's taken for a while. So there's a lot of people trying to get books right now. And Amazon has so many stuff you got to do stuff now. It's ridiculous. So check it out. Demon Wars Volume 1, The Empty Chair. Check it out, guys. I appreciate it if you pick it up. That being said, I hope everybody has a good week. Misfits, sugar ladies, monster lovers, demon hunters, I love you and have a great night. Blessed be.
I hope that you guys enjoyed the show tonight. And I honestly hope that you guys work that process that I described to you of emotional and spiritual healing. I hope that you do that. And I hope that you are able to have deliverance from your traumas and your negative emotions. Because that's really what it's all about, man. Old boy said it earlier, it's about helping people. And that's what we try to do. So really quickly, the YouTube channel, if you want to listen to any of the old shows, is youtube.com/James Hershey Jr. That's where everything is. Hundreds of episodes of Staring. We got like 30 some episodes of Tales from the Abyss up now. That's the show that we do where we go and do these investigations and stuff. And there's a bunch of paranormal news up there too, a couple hundred of those. It's 100% free. Go subscribe and just enjoy the channel, man. Check it out. It's really got a lot of cool content. I hope that you guys learned something tonight. And I hope that you never have to deal with some of the stuff that some of the people we help deal with, because it's honestly horrifying. And if you're one of those people that doesn't believe because you've never experienced it, like I said before, man, I'm happy for you that you haven't experienced it. And I hope that you never do, because it sucks. With that being said, I will catch you on the next one. Till I speak to you again, love many, trust few, and do harm to none. God loves you, and so do we. Bye-bye.